Welcome back to another Chit Chat, and today we're going to be talking about the ever so pleasant topic of toxic fandom.
Yep.
Particularly in board games, there's been some things happening in recent situations that have been a little bit toxic in some people's perspective. Probably not from other people's perspective, but we want to talk about it a little bit here on the show. Again, it's me, it's Ryan, and probably our least toxic team member, Jeremy Howard. I'm kidding there. It's probably Emily's the least toxic.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Nonetheless, we have Jeremy Howard with us. Jeremy, how are you today, sir?
Hey, man, I'm just a brother, man, doing all I can. I'm feeling good this morning.
By the way, everyone, he has a glow-in-the-dark Jack Skellington jacket on right now.
It's perfect for Halloween.
I had asked him to turn the lights off, but I'm afraid they wouldn't come back on, and we'd just be looking at a jacket.
They probably wouldn't.
A fade into the dark.
So, who is brave enough among us to dive into the topic of toxic fandom first?
I don't want to bury the lead. I mean, I don't want to hide from this. So I'm going to call it out, if that's okay.
You're a toxic fan?
No, I think what's going on is the reason we're talking about this is because we've been following what's going on with the Marvel Dice Throne X-Men campaign, and the vitriol in the comments and the amount of just that toxic fandom that's been coming out has gotten so bad that even the the creator of Dice Throne felt like he had to come out and be like, guys, you got to chill because it's affecting my mental health.
Yeah.
And I think when we get to a point where, especially when you call yourself a fan of something, and you love that thing, and the creator, the person who created the thing that you love, comes out and says,
everybody,
"You're killing me here."
Right.
Maybe you need to reflect on your own behavior and say, "Did I really need to be that harsh when I was presenting my opinion?"
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I want to say right off the top here too is we know people have different perspectives on this. And like Jeremy said before we started recording, Jeremy, what was it? It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, I mean, mommy and daddy taught us that, right? So,
right.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the comments that we're seeing, some fall into the category of criticism. And I want to say right now, we're not here saying no one should criticize anything.
Or don't feel like you have to keep your opinion to yourself. Share your opinion.
But depending on how you say it, it can have more ramifications than you might expect. And I've looked at a lot of the comments, not just on that campaign, but on a lot. And there are everything ranging from glowing support, which is fantastic, to genuine questions and like, could it be this way? It would be cool if it could be this way. Things how you phrase it like that, were like that you'd hope for or you wished for this. Then there's people who said this should be the way it is. Why are you doing this? And then there's even some that kind of fall into the category of not just criticizing the art or the product itself, but talking about it kind of bleeds into the people behind the project and like who would do this. Comments like that start to make it pointed more towards the people and less towards the thing that you're really wanting to change.
Well, and that's when it gets toxic. And that's the issue too. And that's what I'll never really understand. I mean, I'm sure we've all had our toxic moments playing competitive games. You get a little salty sometimes. But this is a product, right? This is something that you don't have to buy.
Right.
And that's where they lose me. Because it's like, I understand expressing some disappointment. For example, like a lot of people with this Marvel and even other games, especially when we're talking about IPs, a new thing comes out, it's an IP, and people go, I don't like that IP. And that's fine. This one's probably not for you because you don't like this IP. And even expressing it and saying like, I'd really rather we didn't do IPs. I'd really rather we had original content. That's expressing your opinion. If enough people come forward and say, I'd rather have original content, then they'll probably do original content. But I'll tell you what, if you come out shouting and cursing at them and telling them that you're going to boycott them and that you hope their company fails because they made this decision, they're probably not going to ever want to do any more content,
right?
Let alone the content that you want them to do. And I think that that's kind of, unfortunately, what we're starting to see, not just here with Dice Throne, but other publishers as well that have had to make statements like this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people take the sort of stick versus the carrot mentality to their comments and think, oh, I need to be really aggressive to affect some change that I want. When in a lot of cases, particularly I think in our industry, you take a different approach, and those companies and whoever you're talking about feels that sort of love, and they're more likely, I think, probably to even listen to a carefully worded criticism than they are something like that. It can go a long way. Jeremy, what do you think about any of that?
First of all, I want to say and acknowledge that, Dice Throne, lined our pockets with a lot of coverage, so I want you to, since we're saying Dice Throne, I understand that it may seem like we're coming to the defense of everybody at the Dice Throne company because because we got paid content for them. That's absolutely not true. I'm a human being. I'm about people and how we treat people. And that's first, just because it's business, that business element is there. This has nothing to do with that conversation that's happening today. We are here because of our feelings, and because of people's feelings and their toxic approach to certain things. And it hit us enough where we wanted to talk about this topic today. I just want to make that very clear because that's how I feel about it. Specifically. And I know how some of you will feel before you start typing your comments like, oh, that's because you guys already got paid for this stuff. No. I know those people. I know people involved in this project in different ways, in different business forms and all that stuff. And it's just like, we're just people, man. And we're just people. Designers are people. Their team that works behind them are people. And they do all this work to get this product in front of you in its form. And I think back to I'm part of many communities, and some of the designers they leave these Facebook groups, they leave these groups, and they leave these Reddit posts, they leave all these posts because they can't handle listening to so many people reject and talk. I mean, really angrily, like, hey, you're cutting corners. Hey, you don't understand what this actually means. Hey, you don't care about us, or you don't care about actually making something good. This is a cash grab. A lot of those things, I mean, just overall, people don't understand the amount that goes into a design, just as a whole, like design, to lose focus a little bit. I even tell people, like with narrative games, people act as if narrative games don't cost time and money to make. You got to write all that stuff, and people just go like, hey, there's only a bunch of cards and this and that. I'm like, people have to sit down and write the lore for those cards. Lore takes time to build. So as we become customers and we make those choices, I understand there's feedback because, hey, I'm paying you $60, $169, $400, $600. I have things I want to say about that. Or if I'm on a ledge between backing and not backing, I have things I want to say as a customer. I'm not saying you don't have to say anything. What I'm saying is it's what you say and it's how you say it. And I want you to know that they have impact. And that's, as someone who's an admin of a lot of places and community groups, because I am fans of these things. I'm not a lurker, I'm a fan. I find that the people behind them leave and ask me to be admin because they don't want to hear it anymore. The complaints and like shots at their customer service and, all kinds of things. I mean, there's flaws to every company, flaws to every process. Still, feedback is welcome. But the way some of these people go at it, it's like, damn, man, do you have a heart? Like, would you say that to that person if you were at a convention, like right in front of them? Like, hey, man, your customer service sucks and you guys are terrible at this, or you don't understand how to make a character. You don't understand the lore. I mean, come on, man. Like, have a heart, first of all. But like, let people express their version, their creativity, and try it. Try to be open to things before you tear them down, man.
I think also, to dovetail into something that Jeremy just said, I think one of the things you have to remind yourself is all these companies aren't like this giant mega corporation like the phone company, who is probably just a big entity that makes decisions, not really thinking about individual customers. We're talking about small companies here and people who put a lot of creativity and passion into what they're doing. These are people who are trying to make the best decisions for their customer. They're not like just some giant company making money and not caring about what you want. They literally are best served by giving you what you want, and they're making their best guesses at, how to try to do that. And
and they'll make money.
Yeah.
They'll make money because they care about what they're putting out there. Like, they care. They're doing it for the customer. Like, they're not just going like, well, that'll give us an extra $25. I'm sure there's things like that. I'm sure there are things like that. But I believe that most content creators, game creators are trying to give you great design, great product, decent value, right? Decent value that also works for them. And that's what they're trying to do. They're not trying to be like, all right, then we'll just milk another 40 of them. Like that's not, knowing the people in this industry, trust me, that's not the move. That's not the move. They're trying to find the right price. They're trying to find the right way to get this product within a number, within a number.
Right. And I think that's something to point out too. Like a lot of these decisions, and again, criticism is fine. We've seen situations where people have criticized gently, where a group of people have gotten together and said, none of us are really happy with this production value. We think that maybe you made the wrong choice here. And the publisher even comes back and says, you know what we think we did? We're going to re-release new products that are better. We're going to give you, a replacement piece for free because, we did drop the ball. But that's not always what happens. People understand like the margins that some of these publishers are going under, especially like some of these Kickstarter companies that are just like one-man shows or one-woman shows or whatever. Some of these decisions they have to make, like, we need to make this box an ounce lighter. What are we going to take out? Maybe the insert goes, or this one piece that we wanted is becoming so expensive that we have to, we will make zero money. Like you should want the creators that you love to make money. And this is like all kind of tied together in one big ball. But going back to all of these campaigns where people are like, oh, let's just, everybody protest, everybody, nobody buy this thing because we don't like the IP they added or we don't like this one character choice they made. So do you really want the company that you love to go bankrupt? Because I guarantee the thing that you love, you're never going to get more of it if the company goes bankrupt. So Dice Throne or Marvel might not be your thing. Maybe you don't like Marvel, but they're making $2 million. They're going to take that $2 million, invest it in the company, and guess what? That's going to give them the freedom
to do some other things.
To run a company.
To run a company.
The other thing that I think is a valuable thing to say right now, since we've been talking about it for a while. I know it sounds like we're up on our soapboxes telling everyone, preaching to everyone, here's this and here's how you should be and don't be this way. We know that the people out there who agree with us are going to agree with us. The people who don't agree with this are going to not. And we are under no the wrong impression of we're going to change anyone's mind here.
But maybe if you could think a little bit about your comments. That's all I really hope.
That's what we want to do.
Think twice before you're writing something on Facebook, really.
Exactly.
I'm going to give a little shift to this. A little shift. We didn't really talk about this beforehand. This goes the same for content creators. Dice Throne is a company. It's a small company, but it's big enough where people can still say, oh, it's big, da-da-da-da. They don't know. They don't know. They honestly don't know. They have a decent sized team, right? I'm going to shift this to how we are as content creators, right? It's also the way you deal with content creators that this is on a small scale because it's very niche. It's very small. Even us, we have a lot of followers, but we're small, right? We're still small in the game of YouTube. Jesus Christ, right? And it's the comments that we get that sometimes are very disrespectful to the amount of work that goes into this stuff or the equipment we have to work with. I've heard people, small content creators, pounding their comments about how they don't have good equipment or their quality's trash. I'm like, this person decided to take their phone and turn it into content to inform you. And to have that happen to a small channel who's probably staying up till 3, 4 a.m. editing stuff and they have kids and a family, I know some of these channels, that hurts. I know it hurts. It even hurts more than the subtle comments that they're making on their videos. It's the same thing for the Spirit Fire situation. There's not enough information out there, but they're, going to town on Alex. He only had to work with what he had to work with, right? And here he is making another video to explain himself. He shouldn't have to do that. That kind of stuff like that. I just want to make sure people understand you don't know your impact. So when you type these things in there, just realize it's out there and you are affecting people. People like myself, and in the case of Dice Throne, the companies that they have, and even in Alex's case, it's not just Alex, it's also the company behind Alex that, they're taking shots at the product. like I said, you're fair to make comments, but taking shots at Alex for only having what he has to work with, and then also just at the product too, it really sucks. It really sucks to see, to see and witness happen. And they don't realize that you're taking the morale. I think that's what it is. It's like you drain the morale out of people who are putting all this work and passion into informing you and giving you a great product. And that's what really gets to me. So if you come away with any of this stuff and you think we're on a soapbox, it's because I don't like how some of us, the community, treats other people. And it's to the point where MVM wants to say something about it. And we can't control it. No matter what we say, you're going to get in your comments and tell us you don't like us and say all this stuff. You might make a Reddit post. I don't care. I'll even come defend it in that post. But what I will say is man, watch how you treat people. Because if you can't say it to somebody's face, then don't say it. Don't say it in the comments. Don't run to the internet and say that kind of stuff. Try to temper your expression, your feelings, and bring it down a notch, man. Just bring it down a notch. Okay? Passion is awesome. Passion is awesome. But watch it, man.
I have just decided that I'm going to edit out everything we said until Jeremy's part just then. Jeremy, you just said it all. Like, honestly, everyone out there watching this right now, I hope you take this to heart. Everything Jeremy just said, I 100%, we 100% agree with. It does affect people, even the smallest little comments. I know, like Jeremy, we're not the smallest YouTube channel. We're not the biggest YouTube channel. But man, when we see good comments, it makes us feel good. When we see bad comments, particularly that are worded, not just genuine criticisms, but ones that like really make, take a bite at the decisions we've made as a channel, it is a little demoralizing. So just keep that in mind when you do stuff.
David, I just want to say one more thing about how I was taught when I grew up, because we come from a different age, right? We're getting older, And our dads used to say some pretty thick stuff, right? So my dad used to tell me, hey, boy, never let them see you sweat. Whenever I got situations where I didn't get what I wanted, or some friends left me in the back, or some girl let me go, he would say, don't let them see you sweat. Make sure he would say your skin should be thick like a reptile. You should have a spine. You should have a back. All these things. I'm downloaded with that. But that doesn't mean that I'm human. That doesn't mean that I'm not human. Dad, that doesn't mean it doesn't bother you. And unlike my father, I will say how I feel. Okay, so when I have something I want to say, I say how I feel. So I respect everybody's opinion. But I also can tell you, that's whack, dude. Like, when you say something that's whack, I know that you won't keep that same energy. I will, but that's me. I don't feel like other people would do that. So I'm like, why are you doing that? That's how I feel. And I think to myself, we do have a spine. It's just that this is the time where it's gone too far in some of these cases.
Yeah, it definitely has gone too far.
Yeah.
And just to sum it up, I think it's like saying something like, yeah, everyone be nice to each other, of course. But just try, please, for us, for every content creator out there, for every publisher out there, try to complain without attacking. I think that's what it boils down to me, too. If it reads like an attack, it's probably going to feel like an attack to them as well.
Yeah, just remember that those publishers out there are bringing something to you. You don't have to buy it. You can criticize it. You can make even some suggestions, but try not to make it personal, right?
Yeah, I think that's when it really starts to hurt.
So that is our conversation. I'm sure we could sit here and talk for another 3 hours on this topic because it really gets us going, as you can imagine. But we don't have all that time. We want to talk about some games we've been playing, but we also have made time for a little fun. We're going to play a little game. It's going to be tied into this. We're going to have a little player versus player coming right up. Coming up on November 4th and 5th, I'm not going to be here at our table. And I'm not going to be sitting down for another Chit Chat either. I'm not even going to be on the same side of the planet. I'm actually going to be in Bangkok for CMON Expo Thailand. And I'm not the only one. Some very well-known designers will also be there, like Randy Flynn, Matthias Wigge, Jun Sasaki, Danielle Tassini, and CMON's very own Fabio Curry. There's going to be a bunch of other publishers there too, and so many games being played. It should be a ton of fun, and I'm going to try to do my very best to bring some of that experience back here to you. So be sure to look for my posts on the channel, over on our Discord, and wherever you follow us on social media. This trip is going to be exciting to say the least, so I hope you can check it out. And we're back. Like I said, we have a game here put together. I'm going to ask these two some questions. I'm going to read a quote from Kickstarters. We're going to call this one Lead by Example. So these are examples, I think.
Oh, wow.
Examples of Kickstarter
God,
comments
David.
on current Kickstarters that I think are a good example of how you might want to approach making a suggestion or asking a question or whatnot. We'll see if these guys know all the Kickstarters that are running right now.
Right.
So who's going to start first? I want to start with Ryan.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Jeremy, you'll get a chance to answer as well. Here's the first quote.
Okay.
This is a good way to start one, by the way.
Okay.
I hate to ask this, but I have been hearing some concerning rumors and would appreciate a direct and honest answer.
Whoa.
Are any of the chefs currently taking cooking directions from rats or raccoons hiding beneath their chef's hats?
Oh.
That sounds like a Critter Kitchen comment to me.
Yeah.
Is that your answer?
Critter
That's my
Kitchen.
final answer.
It is
Yeah.
Critter Kitchen. To be fair, I did choose some comments that
I
would
like
have at
that
least some
comment.
hints. And again,
Okay, I was hoping so, dude. I was hoping so, because we didn't know beforehand. I'm like, we'll see. We'll see, bro. We'll see.
I thought that was a funny one in that it started
Oh, my
like,
God.
I could have read this in a
that's
very
not-
different tone, and it would have come across
Yeah.
very differently.
Yeah. Well, I think anytime you start a
No.
comment with like, hey, I hate to bring this up, honestly. Like, I really do hate to bring this up, but here's the
Yeah.
thing I want to bring up. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't mind people like, like at the same time, sometimes it's just awkward to give feedback too. So we didn't cover that part, but it's like, it is awkward sometimes to give
is.
feedback.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, actually, I have an honest question on how to pledge.
Right.
Like
I saw
sometimes
some
this
of
is
those.
people's first time pledging, and they're going into these communities hoping they'll answer, knowing that they may get a whole bunch of vitriol back. Who knows, right? You don't know.
All right, here's the second one. We'll start with you this time, Jeremy. Here goes. Again, starts
I'm
really
nervous.
nice.
I'm nervous.
Apologies, because I'm certain this has been answered before, but I'd
Right,
like
here
to
you go.
know approximately how many hours of solo gameplay the $99 pledge provides. So, it's a solo.
Okay. Spirit Fire.
It is Spirit Fire. You guys are going to
Yeah.
go all the way on
Yeah.
this one.
well, I wasn't sure if they were talking about
yeah.
a solo game or just a game with a solo component, but that one is pretty much a solo game.
No, because it's called like, it's referred to as like solo, but it's like referred to solo in a group.
Yeah, it is a.
Yeah.
So it's questionable. It's questionable. Like, well, how much is just for the solo? Like, it's just a weird wording, which is feedback, right? Like, that's feedback.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? Fine. I mean, that's fair, right?
Yep.
That's fair.
All right, it's 1-1. I think we'll. Hopefully, you guys don't just get all of these.
We might.
But the
We
third,
might.
the third question, we're going to start with Ryan. Could another stretch goal be magnetized sliders on the player boards for the upgrade token? Kind of like a Yeti lid, so the player token always stays there when on the proper board.
I know what it is.
Oh, you do?
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a guess though. Wondrous Creatures.
It is Wondrous Creatures. Is that what you thought?
No, it wasn't.
Only because that's a great idea. I had a
Okay.
similar thought, and also they're already using magnets in a really creative way with Wondrous Creatures.
That is true.
So bringing if they're already willing to do that with magnets, yeah, doing something with those player pieces and like having them magnetized. That I've never seen that before in a game. I don't think.
No.
That would be pretty neat, actually.
But again,
You know what's cool? And like that's the way you go about it, because those ideas, I think, they go like, oh, it's just like when you have a whole bunch of play testing. It's like when people have a whole bunch of play testing, they go, oh, hey, actually this feedback is consistent and it makes sense. Let's see if we can work that in there. On the back end, people complain about time, but at the same time, they may have had breakthroughs that make the game more streamlined and more exciting. That's why, like, some of these comments do matter. It's just constructive versus like, hey, we go into our stocks.
yeah, and Jeremy, to your point, that comment in particular, I remember had an immediate response from Bad Comment that says, we'll talk to the designers right now, or we'll talk to
that's a good
production
idea.
right now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
I think they recognize it as a good idea and are looking
They care.
into it.
They care. You want to
By
bring
the way,
out a
that
good
comment
product
was
that
from
people like.
Wookie Barista, which is why I chose it. I just
nice.
love the name. All right.
Shout out to the usernames. Shout out to the creative usernames.
3 for 3. Back to you, Jeremy, with this one, and then
yeah.
we have one more. It would be cool to have a Kickstarter exclusive Gold King crown, first player marker, made of metal. Again, current Kickstarter.
Old King's Crown?
It is the Old King's crown.
Old King's Crown.
I got to come up with a harder
That's
game.
a really interesting game. By the way, interesting. I may have a prototype coming at the back end of that campaign. I will let you know about the solo mode in it. I may even just throw it in a solo Sunday. It won't be sponsored or anything like that. I am so excited about that game. And we were going to do some coverage like a year ago, and it like disappeared, and now it's back. And I'm like, I'm very interested in that game.
Yeah.
I just want to find out more about it. So hopefully I do get one to talk about it. I love small publishers, and that game seems like it's really damn beautiful, guys.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds interesting too. So I want to check it out.
All right, here's the last question, and I'm sorry, Jeremy, this is just the way it goes. It's going to Ryan first, and if he can answer it, he will win.
Is that going to be a tiebreaker here?
I don't know.
This
We
is
might
weird.
just play rock, paper, scissors.
This game is flawed, just like our tier
I know there's
list.
going to be an even number of questions.
It is flawed, but it's been a nice.
It's flawed.
It's been a nice
It's
way
fun
for
and flawed. Fun and flawed. Fun and flawed.
Well, this one's hard enough. We'll see.
Okay. Let's
All
see.
right. I would not have gotten that last one because I knew the game. I could not remember the name.
I'm afraid this isn't hard enough, so
Oh,
we'll
boy.
see how it goes.
Okay, this is not hard. Okay.
Here's the quote. Was lucky enough to try this at Essen before Sam started losing his voice. Really enjoyed this one and wished it was already available then.
I mean, Sam, is this Ezra and Nehemiah?
It is Ezra and Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Sam
one
was the
was-
only hint there.
But it was
Sam
the only-
McDonald, one of the co-designers
Well,
of Ezra and Nehemiah.
Also, there wasn't a ton of games at Essen that are live on Kickstarter right now.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only a couple. Maybe that might even be the only one that I know of. Old King's Crown might have been at Essen.
Yeah.
They might have had
been.
Wondrous
Might have been.
Creatures, but I don't think so. So I don't know.
So, not one of our most competitive games here on Player versus Player.
Yeah, David. Jeez, man.
But a fun way to
Jeez.
point out some positive
But
comments.
it was a fun
yeah.
way to point out some positive comments, and we got to talk about a few Kickstarters we haven't talked about.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, we are going
All
to
right.
talk about some other games we've been playing, though, in a minute. But before that, let's talk about Phantom Sleeves. If you play board games with cards and you want them protected, you should check out Phantom Sleeves. They're top-notch quality, easy to play with, and they care about your cards and the environment. Plus, Phantom Sleeves are made with board gamers in mind. The sheer variety of sizes and shapes is kind of crazy. So no matter what game you're playing, they most likely have the perfect sleeve. And whether you want to see your cards crystal clear or avoid that annoying glare from the lights above your table, they've got you covered with both glossy and matte options. And if you're like, I just don't sleeve my cards, well, maybe you should stop and think for a second. Who's going to protect the dusky leaf monkey? Phantom Sleeves. That's who. And we're going to be talking about, like we said, the games we've been playing. We're going to talk about one each just so we don't keep you here all night. We're going to start with Jeremy. Jeremy, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing this game I've been really hype on since like before Gen Con. I should have backed it. I don't back every game, folks. I spend thousands of dollars on games every year, but I've condensed my backing down and I just kind of wait for retail on some of these and I get them as soon as they come to retail. And then I probably end up paying extra dollars to find the Kickstarter copies that I want. This is one of those games, Kinfire Chronicles. It's a beautiful, big game. It's like a new world introduced by people who are like behind, like
World of
Witcher.
Warcraft?
There's people behind Witcher. There's people behind, I can't remember the Heroes game that I'm thinking about. But they are also behind a lot of video game stuff. They've come and they've written up this world and created this beautiful world, beautiful artwork, crazy team. And you're seekers. You're like these seekers. You're going out on this adventure. The adventure is played out on like a magnetic board, which is actually the cover. And you're going out with these seekers. And the big system in this game is when you take actions and you do your action, people can play support cards from their hand to help support your actions. And there's a there's a big amount of like interactivity and conversation between how you play your colors so that people can support you with their color cards that match those. But also you're sacrificing your ability to keep a good hand for yourself, but you're doing it in lieu of like helping someone do something really cool on their turn, like extra movement or help them block attacks. But at the detriment of like not having enough things to do in your hand when it's time to go. And they've taken that world and they've basically made a video game out of it. There are some situations where you're just kind of in a talking quest where you're making decisions. There's ones where you're in town and different events happen and you get these adventure cards and you go out to different worlds. So you're not stuck in any one of these scenarios going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go to 16 and like kind of Gloomhaven-ish and take different paths. I think there's 21 scenarios in there. Beautiful artwork, really easy to get up and going. We're talking like maybe 5 minutes maybe to get set up, and then you're back at it. Scenarios take like 45 minutes, nothing more than that. And like I said, the ones where you're talking, they're less time, but they don't have less content. They just have a whole bunch of choices in them that impact how you play out. And we do, I will eventually have some content for this thing. I'm going to do I think I'm going to just do some content for Kenfire Chronicles, but we do have some content coming up for the smaller box version. It's called Delve, and it's got like in the same world stuff and the kind of the card systems in there, but it's condensed down into a smaller experience in a $20 box, dude. Like that's crazy. So like I'm all in on this world right now. I am all in on this world, and I think I'm just going to spend a good chunk of my time sharing with you my experience. Of course, you can tell it's positive. But it's just exciting to talk about when you find a new world to be in. It's sort of like when like Gloomhaven came in, it was like, welcome to this new world, Too Many Bones, welcome to this world. And now you want to be in it and learn more about the characters, their motivations, and you can do that in Kenfire. So it's exciting. It's very exciting. As you can tell, it's very exciting.
Cool. I have a couple that are very small. So I'm going to talk about two, but they're much smaller than what that sounded like. The first one is a game called Dragon Keepers. This one's from Cosmos. And we played this a couple weeks ago. And it's a very unique game in that there's just these 2 stacks of cards in the middle of the table that represent 2 sides of a book. And then below that, you're going to like take a card off of each of those and put them below. And you're basically trying to score sets of these dragons of different colors. So the 2 cards below are ones that you can choose from. So on your turn, you're just taking one of those cards, maybe 2, maybe up to 3 of those cards. But as you take them, cards from the corresponding stack come down. The thing is, the backs of the cards are all different, such that at the end of your turn, whatever's on the tops of the stacks, the left-hand side dictates how many dragons you need, and the right-hand side dictates what color dragon you need. So at that point, you look in your hand and you're like, okay, I need 3 blue dragons. And then the other thing on the left-hand card is like the reward that you'd get, which is often these amulet pieces or maybe some other special things. And you're all just trying to build a bunch of amulets to sort of end the game. The other really interesting thing is before you do that, so say you take your cards and you're like, oh, I need 4 blue dragons, and you don't have 4 blue dragons, but maybe you have 1 green. You can look in your hand and you can replace the top cards of each stack if you want, or one or the other, to change that scoring thing. So maybe I had one blue dragon. I could actually change the 4 to a 1 by getting rid of one of the cards in my hand, and then I can score it. So then I put down my 1 blue dragon, and then it goes around the table, and everyone has a chance to score the 1 blue dragon at the end of my turn. It's really interesting, and on top of all of that, there's a really limiting placement rule where you can, once you have so many dragons, it basically locks some of the dragons out of scoring for you. So I've never played a game quite like it. I would call it kind of a filler game once you got it down. This is going to be a 20, 30-minute game probably. But I had a lot of fun with it. It's basically family weight. But I think enthusiast gamers would be interested in maybe giving it a try as a filler.
What else you got? I love these little small games. Give me another one. You said you had another one. What's
The
up?
other one is an old game. I don't know that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've talked about it, but it's Nana. Have I mentioned Nana?
I don't know, but we could mention Nana every chit chat, and I'd be okay with that.
Emily and I recorded a thing that we hopefully will post sometime soon on it. This is a game that came out a couple years ago, I think. I just had a chance to play it. I didn't realize Emily had played it earlier this year. You had played it earlier this year.
Last year, yeah, PAX.
I have now played Nana more times than any other game I've played this year, without doubt.
Well, that's another great example. That game is 15 minutes.
It is a 15-minute game.
You play like 10 games in a row.
And just to give you a brief description, also look for our content, but it is a memory game. Now, don't tune away quite yet, because I know that sounds like, a memory game. But it is the best memory game, in my opinion, that I've ever played. And when you play it, you just want to play it again, and then play it again, and play it again. You basically imagine a memory game, but all the cards aren't on the table. Some of them are on the table, some of them are in everyone's hands, and on your turn, you're basically trying to find 3 of the same number by flipping cards on the table, asking another player, what's your largest card, or what's your smallest card? You can't just say, go fish, and say, hey, do you have a 7?
Yeah.
You are looking at, and so you're kind of peeling back everyone's hands from the top and the bottom to try to get 3 of a kind. And there's 3 different win conditions. If you get 3 sets, you win. If you get the set of 7s, you win. Or if the first 2 sets you get equal 7. So if you get 5s and 2s,
that's the
5s,
weird rule.
That is the weird rule, but it's a fun rule. Anyway, if you get a chance to play Nana, absolutely try it.
For sure.
Okay.
All right. Well,
that seems interesting to me.
This one is I have a little bitterness about this game.
Are you going to get toxic?
Okay.
I'm going to get a little toxic towards you guys.
Okay. Okay.
It's Nucleum, and this was if you watched our chit chat last week where we pitted all the essay games together. Y'all knocked this out in the first round, which is a shame. I felt some vindication seeing the comments because a lot of people were like, "Man, the Nucleum should have made it to the finals." This is one of the best games I've played in a long time. If you like heavy Euro games, you need to be paying attention to Nucleum. This is from Board and Dice. And they call it Brass Meets Barrage, and it really, really does feel like Brass Meets Barrage. There's this whole brassy element of like building out these networks on a board. You're transporting coal and uranium around a board to these different power plants to power buildings and earn stars. And there's this whole almost like barrage mechanic. In Barrage, if you've played it, you know, like, okay, you need to generate a little bit of energy on the first turn, but then by the end of the game, you need to be generating a lot of energy. And it's like that in Nucleum. You're collecting these stars for a lot of the things you do. And every time you rest, you're turning them in. And you have to keep getting more and more and more stars. If you only get 9 stars the first time you come in, you need to make sure that you have like 10 or more the second time. And all of this is driven by this incredibly interesting action mechanic where the routes that you're putting down on the board to connect these different cities are action tiles. And so you're playing those action tiles in front of you and you're taking the actions, or you're putting them out on the board as these routes, which is going to help you expand your network, but you're doing it at the cost of losing an action tile. And there's just so much interaction that's going on in this game. There's variable player powers in the form of this experiment. And even within that experiment, you've got like 8 different possible things you can trigger. You're not going to trigger them all every game. The board setup is variable. The way players are going to start the game by going in specific places and you're kind of building out the map together because everybody kind of wants to stay close together to take advantage of other people's routes. Like there's just so much wrapped up into this game, but it's driven by this very simple system of like place an action tile or put an action tile on the board, and all of your actions are printed on these tiles. But the amount of tension in that game is like nothing I've ever played. The tension of when to take that recharge action, the tension of when to go hard and try to produce energy, or when to start putting out those tiles, and that means losing the tiles that are in front of you. It's full of really meaty decisions. I've played it several times now. Every time I've played, some aspects of the game have just gotten so much easier and like the flow becomes so much easier. But the game itself, you start to see all of these different ways you can score and different opportunities and different strategies you want to try. And so it just keeps drawing me back in. And I think this is one that I'm probably going to play as much as I used to play Barrage, for sure.
Wow.
So pretty
big.
light gateway game.
Yeah, like gateway game.
Yeah.
Nothing easy to learn.
So hey, my game group was beating me up about our Essen thing. Some people are beating us up a little bit, and I'll be honest with you. We were actually doing that content based off of like post Essen. I was at Essen, Ryan wasn't. We had some preview coverage on some of those things. So it's like I hadn't even played some of those games yet. I think Apiary was like the only game I had played at that time. So I was still like excited about my purchases or excited about part of a demo I had saw. So some people were like, well, my game group was like, well, you don't sound as hot as you were on the thing. I'm like, well, I hadn't played it yet. Like, so we were somewhat hyped in defending the titles we did know the most about. But I mean, we were just excited. We just wanted to share some content with you guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't beat us up. I'm sorry.
Our Spiel Games cage match was not meant to be a scientific end-all be-all.
We didn't even, like, our seating was terrible.
It was
like,
random.
We just did it. Like,
yeah, we were just having fun. We will have a real official top 10 games at the end of the year.
I know. People are like really taking this so seriously. I think if we're going to do this Essen thing again, we're probably going to take a lot of your feedback. We just did it as just like a fun little way to talk about Spiel games. But people were like, throwing money down on games, so like it got really intense.
We should do it next year, I guess. Like really do it, a full on thing. I mean, we won't add expansions to it. Whatever. We understand. Like we totally understand, man.
Yeah,
but
we will approach
we love too.
a lot more seriously next year if we do it again.
Which I think we should.
I will say though. And as of recording this right now, when you're watching this, you probably already know, but as we're recording this, we don't know which game came out as the winner. We invited a bunch of people into our Discord, and by the way, a lot of people came, and I really appreciate you all joining our Discord. And we've put it to a vote, so once we have that vote, one of those two will win. It came down to Evacuation versus Jin.
Yep.
And we'll see which one comes out on top. I have a feeling I know which one it will be.
I think so.
Crazy, right? Crazy.
But it was an exciting episode, and hopefully this has been an exciting episode too.
Yeah.
Hopefully we didn't get too toxic off the top of the episode. But
we could be considered toxic, right?
Exactly. We did have a lot of fun talking about games again. As you're watching this, I'm probably across the planet in another part of the world.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if it's not the middle of the night, I've tuned in to join in the live comments. No promises, by the way. Until next time, of course, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.
Bye.